Hi guys, welcome to another video. Today I wanted to talk about minimalism and how it both helps me in my regular life and also how it's linked to my spiritual path. So this is going to be more about the kind of philosophy and mindset from my own experience rather than kind of instructions about how to do it. So everybody has their own way of doing minimalism or not doing minimalism, and it's perfectly okay. But I'm going to talk about some of the mindset and why I found it to be so helpful. So, firstly, it's at its heart, it's about being intentional and mindful with living. So, choosing things rather than just having this fixed mindset of just accumulating and somehow buying into that whole cultural brainwashing that somehow having more and more stuff always gives more value to your life, or makes your life better. It's saying no to that and actually really intentionally looking at everything in your life, including your possessions and even your actions, your thoughts, your speech. So that's how it kind of ties in with spirituality. So, and also I just want to clarify, I'm not going to talk about what I call minimalist style. So when I first heard about minimalism, it was more like this idea of, say like an IKEA catalog or some of this minimalist architecture with, these nice looking angles and just white blank walls and spaces and that kind of thing. So that's minimalist style. But I'm going to be talking about minimalism as a way of life, or like how it can help you in your life and your spiritual practice. So again, it's about kind of backing away from all this kind of fixed mindset of accumulation, more is better. It's really looking honestly and clearly and objectively at what we have in our lives. And of course, don't take anyone's word for it, including my own. You can sort of try this in your real life and like everything, like the Buddha says, don't believe him, try it out and actually confirm whether whatever anyone's saying is true. So I first sort of got interested in the practical benefits of minimalism ever since I read a book called Spark Joy. It's quite a famous book and there's a Netflix series about it. And I read this maybe 6 or 7 years ago when my sister suggested it to me. And I did learn a lot of things from that book. I sort of learnt to be a bit more intentional, really looking at each thing I own, whether I need it, whether it actually brings value. And one of the biggest things I got out of it, which I think is what a lot of people get out of it, is basically decluttering my wardrobe. So I got rid of half my clothing, and now I was so much happier after that because I could actually see what I had in my wardrobe. And all of a sudden, by getting rid of half my clothes, I went from opening my wardrobe and thinking, I've got nothing to wear. I went from that to opening my wardrobe and being able to see everything and knowing exactly what to wear. So that helped me a lot. I still use the folding method from Spark Joy as well, 6 years later, for organizing my clothing. So it's a good book. But beyond that, it didn't really have a big impact on my lifestyle. It was kind of just a way to just make things easier in terms of clothing and organizing things a bit better in my cupboards and drawers. So her whole perspective is more about organizing and tidying and kind of looking perfect or something like that. But then there's another kind of shift towards actually looking at everything intentionally and minimizing what could actually be obstacles in our life, like looking at all of the things that we have and that we do. So that mindset came a bit later. It was more actually around 2, 3 years ago that I visited a Buddhist monastery for a meditation retreat, and I was camping in a tent for a week, and I kind of noticed firsthand for the first time the real deep benefits of minimalism and living very simply. And I learnt this not from reading a book or from some monk telling me anything. I learned it from actually seeing the monk with so little possessions and such a simple lifestyle. And I learned that, wow, okay, if someone who appears to be the happiest person I know, this monk, can live like this and be happy, then maybe there's something to this, right? Maybe there's more that I can do in terms of really looking at what obstacles and what possessions there are in my life and whether I really need them. So after this retreat, I sort of started to look at my entire lifestyle, like everything, the home that I live in, things like cars and all the activities I'm doing, the distractions. When these were all taken away from me during the retreat, I saw the value of that, of those things actually not existing in my life. So I started getting more and more motivated to see what I could remove from my life and what the positive impacts of that really are. So since then, I've sort of reduced my living footprint quite a lot. I came from a very maximalist family. I still have that in me in some respect. So I'm not the perfect minimalist. I still have, a decent amount of stuff, but it's also interesting what I don't have. So I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. It's interesting what I don't have. So I don't have actually a bed. I just have a mat which I roll up, which both me and my wife sleep on. And I don't have a TV. I don't use shampoo. I don't have a chair at my desk. I just sit on the floor. I'm actually sitting on the floor right now, and it's very comfortable. And technically, I don't even have a roof over my head. Above me is another apartment. So I don't have to have a roof that I need to repaint or maintain or clean the gutters. So I actually don't have a lot of these things, and it's actually quite, I get a lot of sense of reducing my burden by not having these things. I recently got rid of my car. I can still borrow one if I needed to, but I find just getting around on an e-bike is quicker and more convenient. So I'm pretty happy with the things that I've reduced from my life, and I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff which I could reduce, but it's all a work in progress. It's nothing to force too much. It's nothing to become on this kind of mission to just get rid of everything either. It's kind of just a journey through life that you experience, and you start to see more and more clearly, and your meditation often gets better the less stuff you have in your head, the less stuff you have in your life, less stuff in your head, better meditation. It sort of feeds on itself. You become a bit clearer and you see things, oh, I don't need this, don't need that, and you even get rid of more stuff in your life, and then you have less thoughts, and then you have better meditation, which lets you let go of more stuff. So this whole cycle really feeds on itself, and that's why I think it's quite strongly related to spiritual practice or self-improvement, whatever you want to call it. So it's all intertwined, and it all sort of happened over a course of years. This whole journey happened over almost 5-6 years. So it's nothing to rush, nothing to force. Everyone's at different stages. It looks different for everyone as well. So yeah, and another aspect of it is actually what I now start to look at as minimalism of actions. So I originally thought that, okay, I'll get rid of all my stuff. I won't focus on possessions in my life, and I'll focus on experiences, and I'll try to do as many different experiences as possible because those are more valuable than possessions. But in a way, this is just another kind of consumerism or maximalism. There's a lot to be said about the value of doing something deeply and repeating it and looking very deeply at it and getting very skilled in it, as opposed to seeking out so many different novelty, new experiences all the time. So I've sort of moved away from that as well and started to practice minimalism of action. And I might just quickly draw a picture here, because this will hopefully explain why minimalism of action is quite a powerful thing. So when you think about it, you've only got a certain amount of resources, such as time, money, that go into you, and you can spend them how much you want. Excuse my not so great drawing. So that's a clock and that's a dollar sign. And you use these things to create actions. So if you do many different types of actions, it's not always as effective as putting your energy into one or two actions, which you can go much further in. And you can see that you can make a much bigger effect on the world by condensing your actions rather than spreading them all out and focusing on too many different things. And this can also, focusing on too many different things sort of ties in with having too many different possessions which you have to maintain, so many different things, as opposed to just having the vital few, which hopefully are the type of things which let you use your time and your money resources more effectively. Things that save you money and save you time are always good things. Well, not always, but they're often conducive things to allowing you to spend more of this energy on your fewer but more condensed pursuits rather than being spread thin. So hopefully that illustrates the difference between having so many different actions versus having a few powerful ones. So the other thing about, I guess, the path of minimalism is it can often free up a lot of energy. So like I just illustrated there, you can have a lot of free energy now. When you minimize your possessions, minimize your actions, and you don't have to spend this energy on creating these huge impacts on the world either. Sometimes the world actually doesn't need anything. It just needs to rest. And you can kind of help the world rest by resting yourself, because you are part of the world after all. And other people will see you, see that you're not rushing around, that you're resting, and they too will find that they can relax a bit more. We're all influencing each other. Remember my story, that the way that I came to minimalism in the first place in a deeper level was not so much reading the book about minimalism, Spark Joy book. It was actually a few years later when I went to the monastery and observed the monk being so simple and so still and so minimal in his actions. That's what inspired me to become more minimal and have a much better lifestyle now, a much clearer mind, a much better, well, I believe a kind of a better or smoother impact on the world. And hopefully others will see me, hear my story, and be impacted in a similar way. That's what I hope. So yeah, so it's not like you have to spend all of your energy that you've saved on just rushing around and creating some great thing for the world. Sometimes just doing nothing gets a lot done as well. There's an art to it, art to doing nothing. If you're interested in Taoism, it talks a lot about this. So another question you may want to ask yourself if you are interested in minimalism is, if I became minimalism as minimal in my life, what would I hope to maximize? I've got this free energy. If anything, like I said, you don't have to, but it's something to think about. What would you maximize as a minimalist? So are there any struggles, issues about minimalism, how it links with spirituality? Well, like I said, I came from a maximalist family, and it's still a struggle for me in certain aspects, but I've come a long way. It just takes time to settle everything down in your life. It all feeds on itself as well, like I said, into your meditation, and then feeds back into what you can let go of, clears your mind, better meditation, letting go again. So that's all kind of great. It just takes time. Don't force it too much. Let it come naturally. Keep looking at yourself. Keep practicing seeing clearly. That's always a good thing. The more clearly you see, the more you can kind of see yourself, your own neuroses, your own tendencies. And then accept them, and let go of them. There's also, I guess, it's not about perfection. Like, it's easy to go down this whole minimalism path and try to get it perfect, especially try to, force it. You think that, oh yes, once I have this perfect minimalist life that looks like this, Marie Kondo or whoever you're looking at, then everything will be great, everything will be joyful. But no, that's not really how it works. It's more about just being intentional, seeing what you actually do need and seeing what you don't need, seeing what's an obstacle, seeing what's actually helping you get more time or money or whatever it is you want. So you don't have to try and just get rid of everything and try and make everything perfect either. Perfection is just an illusion anyway. You're never going to get there. It's just pointless, and when you really think about it. Also, I guess in my mind, I was quite a prepared person, or I like to be very prepared, which means I tend to hold on to things. Oh, what if I need this, right? What if I need this later? But the truth is, like, 99% of that stuff I never needed later. And even when I did need it later, it wasn't like a huge thing in my life. It was kind of just like, oh yes, I get this little kick out of the fact that I get to use this thing that I've been storing for the last 5 years. That's about it, right? It's not a huge thing. So that's another thing to look at, like whether you tend to keep stuff because you want to be prepared or you want to reuse it. But it's honestly not really worth it. And I've sort of gradually come to that realization. It took some time. Yeah, and again, once you sort of minimize your possessions, you have less on your mind. Minimalism of thoughts, it's basically meditation, practicing minimalism of thoughts, it's part of it. And minimalism of speech and actions, it all ties in, kind of making sure that you're spreading good vibes and subtly, not just trying to, make yourself look better or trying to be right or whatever it is in the nuances of your speech. Actually, there was something that I saw the other day. Let me bring this up for you. It was quite interesting. This thing here, I'll just shrink myself down a bit. So this is actually a Buddhist sutta, and it was quite interesting because it relates to minimalism of action or verbal action. And it just says, whenever you want to do a verbal action, you should reflect on it. This verbal action I want to do, would it lead to self-affliction or the affliction of others? Would it be an unskillful verbal action with painful consequences, painful results? So it's interesting to sort of look more deeply into our speech as well, and our thoughts and our actions. This is all related, and this particular sutta, I'll post a link, was quite interesting to me if you want to read the whole thing. And it really reminded me of the importance of minimalism of action and thoughts and being intentional with all that stuff as well as our possessions. So yeah, so hopefully that's given you some insight into my thoughts on minimalism and how it ties in with spirituality. And yeah, I hope it inspires you to follow these paths, and it all feeds into each other, and it will help you progress in life and hopefully create a calmer and more intentional lifestyle for yourself. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.